Haunted house workers of Reddit, what's the worst thing you've witnessed? A few years ago I ran a haunted house at our local rec center. The gym was sort of the grand finale and it was set up like a giant indoor cemetery. A lot of families went through the haunt and the kids were horrified by the zombies. A lot of kids would just be losing their minds when they got to the exit. But because I'm a jerk, the exit was fake. It was one of those heavy metal doors with the push bar on it. It led to another part of the building but it looked like an exit. So I put a sign on it that said thanks for coming. Please exit quietly. So the kids would be freaking out and the same thing would happen over and over. The parents would say it's okay. It's over. Look, see, it's the end, and the kids would be relieved and they would run for the door. They'd push it open and Leatherface would blast his chainsaw right in their face. We had a haunted trail and hurried through a haunted forest at the place I worked when I was a teen. One part of the forest was really dense and had trees packed in close. And at that part of the ride the park owners decked the trees out in all shades of neon glow and the dark streamers and placed black lights to make it really trippy. Usually, as the hayride started into that section, clowns would start flitting between the trees, inching closer and closer to the ride until the kids, and plenty of the adults, lost it. One day, the clowns decided to bring along coolers with beer and have a little party. They ended up getting so drunk that about half of them laid down in the trail to stop the hay truck, and the other half tried to hijack the thing, hollering about raising their pay. Another time, we trail tour guides deviated from the script a bit with a gag about an escaped convict, and a couple people called 911. This is the first story on this thread that made me laugh out loud. Just the image of drunk unionizing clowns. When I was a little kid I was walking through a haunted house that was set up in a couple rooms in a school or something, and I turned a corner and saw some middle-aged woman screaming and violently stomping out some guy who was dressed up as a scarecrow. I think his job was to lay on the ground and just kind of lurch forward at people as they walked by, and he scared the lady so badly that she just started curb stomping the crap out of him. She eventually stopped after he started screaming, and he just kind of got up and limped out of the room. Jesus freaking Christ. I'm a volunteer and I've been punched pretty hard before, but I've never been stomped on. That's brutal. I really hope he was okay. My mom worked at a haunted house when I was younger, somewhere between 6 and 10. She was a skeleton and jumped out and hugged me as we were going through and I punched her in the face. My dad laughed for days. Favorites. Giant boyfriend using his tiny date as a human shield being picked up by the waistband. Large black girl running like heck screaming my weave my weave. Gay couple screaming I'm gay in defense. We are equal opportunity haunters. We scare all creeds and sexualities. I once made the mayor of my town shield himself with a small child. I was in a smallish room with a steel grate separating me from the folks walking through. It was my job to make sparks on said grate with a car battery. Safe. I know. Anyways, I guess I really timed it right. I have worked 3 haunts, and sparks with car battery seem to be a constant. Hooking up a car battery to a fence on one end and a broken chainsaw on another was awesome since the actor could run the chainsaw along the fence and sparks would fly everywhere. We've had 2 pisses in my house alone so far this season. Opened last weekend. Another haunt at work scared someone into defecating. My sister used to work at a haunted fair type place where workers in the various mazes would keep score of people they could get to pee or crap their pants. Unfortunately, it is closed now because the owner didn't manage money well. When one particular big, burly dude figured out I was not, in fact, a mannequin and I could, in fact, get out of my cage and come for him, he ran so fast he went through one of our temporary walls like something out of a cartoon. Worst for him, funniest for his friends and me. My family used to run a haunted house through my high school years when me and my friends could help out. We went all out. We had built a couple of coffins. We had a small airplane that had been sitting in a junkyard delivered to our backyard that we haunted and let people walk through. We had rooms designed to disorient people with bright strobe lights and checkerboard walls, and a lot of other generally scary crap. In one of the strobe rooms, we dressed a guy up in a checkerboard suit, hat and makeup, and you wouldn't be able to see him plainly standing in the middle of the room. He scared the pee out of a few people. After they were done with that room, they had to walk through me standing in a coffin pretending to be a mannequin. I took it very seriously, and the best one was after a young boy peed his pants in the strobe room. His mom and young sister were standing in front of me, talking to my dad about it, basically shooting the crap. The daughter whispered, "Mom, that doll in the coffin moved," and the mom came right up to me, poked me, watched me, and said, "No honey, it's not real." Well, I was, and still am real, and all three of them pee their pants. 100% ratio on that tour. I worked at a theme park haunt as security last year and moved around the park a lot. I saw some really funny, infuriating things. 1. While working in our carnival area, where we had what were called sliders, they wore pads on their hands, elbows and knees so that they could slide around on the ground and scare people. One of them slid up to a couple and the girl legitimately shrieked, jumped 3 feet in the air, and fell on her ass while her boyfriend laughed. Unfortunately, she'd bruised her tailbone and we had to call EMS because she couldn't walk. The slider felt awful and her boyfriend even worse. But everyone was actually laughing, including the girl. They came back the next night apparently. Bonus of season passes. 2. While working on our alien maze, I had a monster come running out of the maze looking for me or anyone wearing a security vest because someone had clotheslined another monster across the throat and was now refusing to leave the maze. We had to remove him, and the girl he clotheslined had to go to the hospital because he bruised her throat. She was fine by the next day. 3. Possibly the worst and most infuriating. There was a dollhouse maze. This was where most of the underage girls worked, because it was easier to make them look like China dolls. I'm watching the line and a large rowdy group comes through, shouting and banging on trash cans. They were obviously drunk and I had to ask them repeatedly to calm down. When they got to the front, I called for someone to watch the line so I could follow them through the maze. They continued their butt-foolish behavior all the way through, until one of the rooms. This room was lined with mannequins and a few actors, who were very good at staying still. One of the men in the group decides to start grabbing the mannequins, and then he figured out that not all of the dolls are mannequins. He goes after one of the obviously living monsters, and flat out grabs her chest, full on honke action. This girl was 16. She flipped her crap and kicked him the nuts. We had to shut down the maze to flush everyone except her assailant out and then get the actual police involved. I was shocked that someone thought this was actual acceptable behavior. The man was arrested. His group was thrown out without refunds, obviously, and the girl's mother apparently pursued legal action against him, not the park, because she herself worked there as well in our hillbilly maze. Cute story. I had a little kid, about 6 or 7, ask me in the nicest way possible if I was one of the monsters because I have severe eczema. When I told him no, I just have bad skin, he told me that he hoped I got better because he thought I was pretty. Same here with the severe eczema. A lot of people have told me I would make a good monster at a haunt. Kinda cool but hurtful still. I never worked at a haunted house, but I saw the guy get his legs get cut off with a chainsaw. I found out it was a guy who lost his legs in a war, with fake ones. But blood was everywhere. It looked so real. Dang, that actually sounds pretty cool. If I ever lose my legs somehow I will volunteer at a haunted house. I volunteered for a local haunted house one year and made a girl pee herself. Literally all I did was stand right on the other side of the door and put on the evilest grin I could conjure up. I was dressed as some kind of crazy blood-soaked mailman or something. They didn't give me any lines or directions. They basically just told me to be scary. So, some poor girl walked in, held in the arms of her boyfriend, and upon seeing me she screamed so freaking loudly and just wet her pants right there. Her boyfriend just kept pushing her through my room and into the next. It was an interesting experience. Can you please take a picture of yourself doing said grin? I was working at a haunted house at an amusement park near my hometown and I was cast as victim. So one night this couple passes me and the one of the actors comes running at me, so I start to scream bloody murder. The look on the boyfriend's face was of utter terror. He picked his girlfriend up and swung me over his shoulder and ran us out of the area and almost past the front gate. Security had to block his way, then reason with him to put us down. Far better than all the other boyfriends who ditch everyone. I have 2 stories. Context. I'm a small girl pretending to be a dead little girl in a little girl's bedroom, and there is a bed smack in the middle of the room. The people have to walk around in a U fashion. In training they said don't get raped. 1. I'm alone in my room frozen in the corner when some big gangster looking 6-foot guys come into the room. I remain frozen in the corner and this guy yells back to his friends, yo, there's a MF bed in the room. Before I even move he has jumped as high as physically possible into the air to jump on this bed. The bed was a piece of wood with a sheet on it. He bounced off the wood right and his friends begin laughing hysterically, and so do I. All I hear is, man, you're so dumb, even the monster is laughing her ass off at you. 2. I'm in the same corner of the room frozen when a person pushing another person in a wheelchair walks in. I stay frozen and assess the situation. The person in the wheelchair looks mentally able and I start to think, man, it would suck if I came to a haunted house and nobody scared me because I was in a wheelchair. So I waited for them to pass me and slowly crawled across the floor towards the person in the wheelchair. Jump up and yell. The person in the wheelchair looks at me sarcastically like, really? But the person pushing the person in the wheelchair took off at top speed, and before I could yell out they ran through the curtain at the end of the hall. Well, past that curtain the hall changed directions. But that person obviously had no way of knowing that, so they slammed the person in the wheelchair into the wall. I ran to go help, but before I could get there they were gone. One time 2 really drunk guys went in and started harassing one of our actresses in a cage. The owner, a cop, and a 6 feet 5 inches guy with a spiked club went in to get them out. As a haunted house worker, drunks are the worst. If you are drunk, do not go to a haunted house, and if you must, please don't be in butthole and don't bang on things. One of the workers was under a table she pops out of, and she had a large drunk man come through and slam his fist down on top of it. If she had come up a few seconds earlier he could have injured her. Drunks are the worst. When I was 17, I was working in one as a scarecrow. Many people didn't know I was real because I only scared 1 out of every 10 people or so. I saw a bachelorette party come in. They all had matching green tuba tops. I jumped out and screamed at the 3rd woman in line. Out of 8 or so, she jumped and screamed so bad that her breasts popped out of her shirt. She fell down against a wall and sat there for a moment, not realizing her breasts were out. One of them said, Sarah, look down. She quickly looked down, blushed, and fixed her shirt. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the first pair of tea I'd seen in my life. Well, you successfully scared the tea out of one. Kudos. My friend's job was to be live bait. That was the term the organizer for the Boy Scouts in my area had. I was the chainsaw murderer to take the bait. Basically, what my friend did was join people's groups at the door and act really scared. Introducing himself as Brian, he would do things like ask people's names, about their kids, and say how creeped out he was. Brian would say that this place wasn't like other haunted house setups he'd been to, that it gave him a weird feeling. He'd gain their trust and act like a normal human being. Walking into the room, he'd signal me, spin around, and say that he wasn't feeling scared at all anymore. He'd act perfectly fine. Still walking backwards, he'd stop right in front of my closet, where I'd rev the chainsaw, and stick it under his left arm. It'd look like I had just impaled him on my chainsaw. He'd scream and yell, run and just scream. Normally, people would be scared absolutely crapless, and run out of the room. Once there was a group with just a girl and a boy walking with Brian. This one girl was not simply scared by this, she was mortified. She faints, and drops straight on the floor. The boyfriend freaks out and ditches her. He drops the tough guy look, bolts, and doesn't look back. So Brian and I are standing there, looking at the girl. I turn off my chainsaw, look him square in the face and say, well, crap. I end up carrying this ditzy glittered up girl all the way back to the very front of the house. I put her in a chair, and waiting for her to come around. When she regains consciousness, she flips again. Because I was a bastard that killed Brian naturally, I had Brian sitting next to her, and he reassured her that he was okay, and not in fact, dead. Then we explained to her that her so up and ditched her with a murderer in the room. We waited for almost a half hour for her to get a hold of her boyfriend, and to chew him out over the phone for leaving her. She refused to have him pick her up, and she chose to wait for her parents by going through the haunted house with Brian. Oh my god, you killed Brian, you bastard. Kid found a dead bird on the ground while waiting outside. As a prank, he went inside and inserted into a sensory box which is a black box where people put their hands in and feel brains or something, even though it's actually spaghetti, etc. So everyone after him got a feel of brains and real dead bird, without even knowing it. This is like a practice question for a tort class. You can practically smell the lawsuit. Having worked in a local house for a few years, I've seen some hilarious things. Among them, a super tough guy who's giving his girlfriend crap for being creeped out. I pop out behind him in full costume as Jason, which elicits a high-pitched shriek from him. He's backing up further until my buddy, in full Freddy regalia, sneaks into his blind spot. Dude runs, slams into a wall and knocks himself stupid. Girl laughed. Was hard not to hide our shoulders from bouncing up and down from laughter. Work the laugh into something maniacal. They sound much better when they are not forced. I was dressed as a vampire and standing in a coffin. When people would come around the corner, I would jump out and scare them. A woman came through and I jumped out. The woman lets out this piercing scream and jumps backwards. She hit the wall so hard she dented it pretty badly. She kept screaming and wouldn't stop. She was hyperventilating, crying, on and on. I was afraid to approach her and make it worse. I had to completely drop character and tell one of the guests to go get an uncostumed worker to assist her. Someone comes, gets her calmed down. She even talks to me and finally laughs about it. She leaves and I'm so relieved she was okay, but it really shook me up. 30 minutes later, she comes back. I don't jump out of the coffin. I just walk out and say, "What are you doing here?" She gets this embarrassed look on her face and says, "I had fun." Looking back on it, the funniest part were the looks on the faces of the people behind her in the line the second time. To them, this vampire just walks out of a coffin and gets all bossy with some random woman. Former Universal's Halloween Horror Nights led here. People get fricked up. I saw someone OD right in front of me. I've had others just freak out and fight the scarecrows. Some drop into a corner sobbing and have to be carried out. Depressants, hallucinogens, etc. Cocktails for these dehydrated people and introduce them into environments meant to disorient and frighten you. It's like the 4th of July for users. Not personally witnessed, but here's my story. About 6 years ago I worked at a haunt in North Carolina. In one part of the trail, there were body bags that contained mannequins, except one that had a co-worker inside. He freaked out a lot of people, but one group came through, drunk and high, got really freaked out and beat him pretty badly. He got sent to the hospital, they got sent to jail. I was a walk-around character at Six Flags one year. At night, I dressed as a scarecrow. For the record, I was terrifying, and walked around the park, freaking people out. One night, not 20 minutes into my shift, I found a few high school kids to run up behind. As I got close and they started to scream, I got doused with ice water. Keep in mind, it was late October in Louisville, so it was around 40 degrees. I expected to find some PS kid when I turned around. It was a teacher that was chaperoning a field trip. I asked her why she did it. She said, "You were about to scare those kids." Freaking crap. We had security escort her to the front of the park and her group was asked to leave. I got to spend the rest of my night drinking hot chocolate in the dressing room with Tweety Bird. Well, this happened to me as a visitor to a haunted house, not a worker. We had made it all the way to the final room. We knew it was the last room because it let out right by the line we stood in to enter the house. It was all black and white checkered walls with strobe lights, and a guy, also in black and white, with a chainsaw chasing people out. I was the first to enter, sufficiently terrified from the rest of the house at this point. Chainsaw dude must have noticed my apprehension upon entering the room because he went right for me. I screamed and sprinted for the exit door, which of course was painted like the rest of the room. At full force I hit what I was hoping was the door. It wasn't. I did a full speed face plant into a very solid wall, put my front teeth through my lip, howled in pain and started crying. All my friends had exited out of the actual exit, so it was just me and Chainsaw Dude. I thought that was it for me. As he got closer, he saw that I was hurt, not just screaming in terror. So now Chainsaw Dude puts his chainsaw down and carries me out of the house, past all the other people in line waiting to enter, to the medical staff. I can only imagine what everyone in line thought as one of the monsters was carrying this screaming, crying, bloody kid out of the place. I like to think it put them all a little more on edge as they approached the entrance. Not the worst but certainly funny. I worked a haunted hayride with my sister one year and it was my job to get in line, ride with everyone else and get pulled off the wagon and murdered by my sister at the vampire station. One iteration, there was this teenage girl who was terrified. I sat next to her and pointed out how fake everything looked and how she didn't have anything to worry about. When we got to my sister's station and she ripped me off the wagon and threw me to the ground, I started screaming, "IT's real. Oh my god, IT's real." The look of absolute unbridled abject horror in her eyes as the wagon rolled off into the darkness was one I'll never forget. I played a zombie in a strobe light hallway along with someone else. He was in a straitjacket and would violently hit the chair against the wall while he was sitting down on it, and I would just stare at people as they walked by because I have been told that I had a really creepy smile with zombie makeup on. One of the groups that walked through was around 5 elderly folk. After my hallway partner did his jump scare, an old guy from that group started laughing. Then he saw me, laughed even more, but started coughing violently. He leaned against the wall, grabbing his chest, while he slowly fell towards the ground. My hallway partner and I just stood there in shock, frozen, not knowing what to do. I wasn't sure if I should call 911 or what. His friends weren't helping him, but a couple of seconds later, he gets up, points and laughs at us. Old people are awesome. You have been visited by the science doggo. Upvote now and you will get high grades and good results within the next week. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.